Welcome to the Season of Self-Love podcast. I am your host, Nyomi Banks, and I am thrilled to have you join me on this transformative journey. You see, every day we dive into a powerful conversation about self-discovery, healing, and empowerment. This podcast is brought to you by Ask Nyomi and Elevate Me Self-Discovery, where we believe that loving yourself is the first step to living a fulfilling life. You can expect insightful discussions, practical tips, and inspiring stories. Plus, we'll occasionally welcome special guests who will share their unique perspectives on self-love and personal growth. So get comfy, grab your favorite beverage, and let's embark on this journey together. Because it's time to embrace the beautiful person that you are. So let's elevate our lives one episode at a time. Now let's get started. All right, well, welcome back, our beautiful souls, here to another episode of the Season of Self-Love podcast. I am your host, Nyomi Banks, and I'm here to guide you to another journey of healing and self-discovery. Well, today we continue our series of Healing Beyond Betrayal with a deeply inspiring guest who has turned her experience of abandonment and adoption into a very powerful story of identity and resilience. But before we bring our guest to the stage, I want to take a quick break, all right? It's your girl, Goddess Nyomi Banks, here on the Season of Self-Love podcast. And we'll be right back. Hey, my beautiful souls. This is your girly goddess, Nyomi Banks, and I am excited to share something special with you. Introducing my latest ebook workbook, Healing Beyond the Betrayal, a journey of growth, empowerment, and renewal. In these 55 pages, I offer you insight, heartfelt stories, and practical worksheets designed to guide you on your healing journey. So if you experience betrayal or you are seeking personal growth, this resource is made just for you. You see, it's time to reclaim your power and embrace renewal. So you can get your copy by visiting the seasonofselflovepodcast.com. And as a thank you for being part of our community, use the code HEALED09 at checkout to enjoy a 15% discount. So let's embark on this journey together because you deserve to heal, grow, and thrive. What are some common barriers that prevent people from expressing? Hey, it's your girly goddess, Nyomi Banks, here from the Season of Self-Love podcast.
Yeah, I would say remorse. So shame and guilt is a very dividing emotional.
And these are one of the many amazing conversations that we have every day, Monday through Friday, right here on the Season of Self-Love podcast with myself, Nyomi Banks, as well as our resident therapist, Dr. Will Washington of Washington Wellness Institute. Come by.
The reality of our relationships with people.
Come by.
And a lot of times we're afraid of how people look at us. And so that compassion can't enter.
You can hit us on our website,
really
the Season of Self-Love podcast.com. With the truth.
Washington Wellness Institute focuses on healing all ways. For me, if I look good, then I feel good. If I feel good, then I share the good. If I share the good, then I celebrate the good. If I celebrate the good, then I live the good. So I can be paid to be my greatest. But I have to learn the good to be the good.
So, what does it take to be the greatest? It's as simple as a free 15-minute consultation. Be kind to yourself and heal always.
All right, well, welcome back to the Season of Self-Love podcast. I am your host, Nyomi Banks, and today we are continuing our conversation about healing with betrayal. And today, joining me is a very special guest. Not only is her story inspiring, but she had turned her experience from abandonment and adoption to a very powerful story. So please join me in welcoming Miss Judy Fanbrough Billingsley. She's the author of Too Brown to Keep a Search for Love, Forgiveness, and Healing. Well, hi, Miss Judy. Do you mind me calling you Miss Judy?
Of course. And thank you. Thank you so much for having me on your show.
Thank you. But so before we get into the topic, what I usually do is I usually take a short 60-second guided meditation to help, kind of center ourselves before we get in topic. All right, my listeners. So you know what's going on right now. So I want you guys to just get in a comfortable position. All right. Find a comfortable position and close your eyes. want you to take a deep breath in through your nose, filling your lungs. Now I want you to slowly exhale out your mouth. And now as you breathe in, I want you to imagine drowning in love and acceptance. Now as you exhale, I want you to release any doubts or fears. Now picture yourself in a safe space, a haven of love and acceptance. Now I want you to take a last deep breath in, hold, now release from your mouth. Now I want you to hold on to this feeling as we explore today's enriching conversation. When you are ready, please open your eyes. All right, Ms. Judy, thank you for sharing this moment with me. As well as you're new here to the Season of Self-Love podcast, it's something that we do every day, Monday through Friday, just to help center ourselves again before we get into the topic at hand. And today we're talking to Ms. Judy. Ms. Judy, it is so wonderful to have you with us, and your journey has been such a beacon of hope in so many. But not only are you a celebrated author, but you also are a profound advocate of identifying and healing through your work. So could you share a little bit about your background and what led you to write your book?
Yes. And I want to say that I really appreciate the meditation. I'm a member of Unity, and we meditate, and I meditate every day. So thank you.
You're welcome.
My background is that I was born shortly after World War II. And although many people know a lot about history of World War II, one of the aspects of any war, but especially World War II, is that it's the first war that brought about a lot of children who were born of variety of racial backgrounds, but the children were left behind by the soldiers, not just American soldiers, all soldiers throughout Europe. There were 35,000, what we were called occupied babies, left in Europe after World War II. 5,000 were left in Germany, and my sister and I were 2 of the 5,000 left in Germany.
Wow.
And so my birth mother gave us, my sister and I, we went to the Kinderheim. We were given up for adoption. We were adopted by an American couple. And I say we were blessed to have had that happen. We were brought to America and raised by them. They were great parents. However, abandonment, if you know the trauma of abandonment and all of that, regardless of how good your parents are, and I did have loving parents, they are my mama and daddy. I always had the burning desire to meet at least once both of my birth parents. And so I made that pledge to myself in 6th grade when the teacher asked us to write about who we most looked like, which parent did we look like, and all of that. And of course, going to the doctor, they'd ask my mom the history, and she'd say, well, I don't know it because they're adopted. So, that just spurred me on. So I clicked and logged that. Life happened, of course, with marriage and children and college and all of that. But I never forgot about it. And so I began my search. One day, my dad knew that I wanted to find them, and he got on a stool and pushed the panel of the kitchen panel, and he had stored our adoption papers up in a shoebox. And he brought it down. This is old school now. He brought the shoebox down. And I had to wait till I was 25, though. He said he was going to determine when I was mature enough to handle it. I was 25 at that time. and I had a child, and I was sitting visiting, and all of a sudden he just did it. And so that shoebox has always been just a blessing because it had my German adoption papers in it and correspondence and letters. They were in German, but of course they were also translated in English.
Mm.
And so that began my journey of discovery and truly searching. And this was prior to the internet. In my book, I do talk about the internet nowadays is a lot easier. You know, you can do your DNA and all of that. That did not exist at the time that
No.
I was doing it. But I am one of those that if I need to find you, I will. So I'm a very determined person. And so that was how I began. And through my research and through my findings, um, resulted in my friends encouraging me that I had such a unique story
Yeah.
to put it down, write it down. And so that's how I published the book, Too Brown to Keep.
Too brown to keep. Okay, so you mentioned that in the box that there were letters. There were corresponding. Were there letters from your birth mother to you and your sister?
No,
No.
no. I talk about this in my book that in my village where I was born in Frankfurt, but we lived in 45 minutes away in a very small village. There were about 500. Now it's a lot larger. In fact, I
Yeah.
just came back from Germany a month ago. Um, but once the black Cadillac came and picked us up at the church lawn, and a lady got out and put my sister and I in the back seat, locked the doors, and took us away. We never saw our birth mother. My sister, I had an older sister who was German, and we never saw her. Never saw my babysitter. Never saw the village. Anything ever again. We drove 2 hours to Mannheim, Germany, which is um, St. Joseph Kinderheim, is where my sister and I lived until we were adopted.
Oh wow. As I'm sitting here, like feeling something. How old were you then? How old? I mean, because it's a movie. As you're
Yes,
speaking right now, it's a movie in my head, of
I would like to
watching
say
two little girls being put in the car while she's watching her mother and her sister just standing there watching, and they're not going with you. So that not only abandonment, we talk about this a lot
Mhm.
on this series about abandonment, but also a sense of betrayal. So
Yes.
for you at such a young age, how were you able to um, be able to connect with the new beautiful family that now are your parents? How were you able to get through that to be able to have a more, I want to say, an acceptant feelings from them, knowing that you're worthy of their love because you know that you and your sister was given away because you all look different, right? You look different than your sister. So in that case, when you went to them, how was that transition for you?
Well, I was blessed. I
Mhm.
do have to say, in several different ways. One way I was blessed is I was two. My sister was five. She and I have the same mother and father, although she's light skinned and blonde hair, blue eyes, and I'm the brown one. And I'll share the title of the book in a minute as I say that. Um, but I also have another sister, Helga, who her father is different. Um, she was in Germany. My sister and I were the ones that were put in the Cadillac.
Mm.
One of the things to answer that directly is that I was really blessed to have, especially my dad, who never shied away from saying, "You're adopted. We love you. We chose you." That really always
Yeah.
resonated with me, because he said, look, we could have adopted other people. We chose you and your sister. We love you. And he um, really surrounded us with love and assurance. Because the component also about being worthy, because everyone throughout life will eventually experience abandonment. That doesn't
Mm.
mean you're adopted, but
Yeah.
abandonment through death.
Yeah.
Someone, abandonment through divorce,
Yeah.
abandonment through. I've met people have doing my book presentation who say, "I feel abandoned. I have a husband or wife, but there isn't the love and the connection."
Yeah.
And so this theme for the audience is not just about adoption, it's abandonment, period.
Yeah.
My dad kind of calmed that fear when he said, I chose you.
Yeah.
And he honestly did, through pictures, because we never met in person until my sister and I were flown to New York. And they met us in New York, and we were handed off to them. And the adoption process began in America.
Mm.
you know so but in spite of all that, I just felt, I talk in the book about also being biracial, and I was blessed to have my dad who uh, and my mom who exposed us to white America and African American. And that helped us. They really surrounded us with, code switching and how to behave and what are the norms of each culture, because they are different. There's commonalities, but there's also differences, as we all know. So I had parents who did that, and that's what was blessing. But it did not take away my burning deep desire to find my birth parents.
Wow. That was my next question, is to ask about your roots and how did you connect with your roots, knowing that you are now in a new home, a beautiful new home, a beautiful new space. But not only that, but you've been removed from a country that you were born into. And even though you wasn't there for 2 years, you're still not an American. So for you, how do you identify yourself in that aspect?
You
Is it
know,
not?
it was tough. Yes, it's tough, and it was tough. I always wanted to know, who do I look like? My sister was 5, and my other sister was 8. Now she stayed in Germany, but my sister, who was 5 at the time, and she was adopted with me, she spoke German. So my
Mm.
parents actually hired a tutor to tutor her at home in English in preparation for school. Um, for me, it was, I'll never forget, and I don't remember I know it was a boy, but I don't remember his face or anything, but I remember at school, one day coming up, and kids can be mean, and he said, if your mama don't want you, nobody does. And that stuck with me. And that was another driving force. I say it in my book. I want to know if she did love me, because my daddy always said, oh, she loved you so much she gave you away. But for me, it was like, if you love somebody, you don't give them away, and so I always was torn. What do I identify with? Of course, African American.
Mhm.
Uh, but I also identify with my German. I didn't know what it was. I wanted to see. I was born with a German birth certificate. I was German. I left German people behind who loved me. And I didn't know it at the time, but as I did my research and went back, um, I realized that I was missed from the village.
Mm. So let's do this. Let's talk about your book. Let's talk about too brown to keep.
Yes.
Yeah. So you have some very central themes to your book. How
Mhm.
do love, forgiveness, and healing play into your narrative? And what coping mechanism have you found that was most helpful to you?
Very good questions. um, my coping mechanism throughout my life is my dad was a very successful businessman. And he also was very much in tune to really teaching my sister and I the norms and cultures of each society. He coached us through them. And when we ran into trouble, especially me, because I did run into trouble, um, I had long hair you could sit on, and, and remember, it's back in the day.
Yeah.
Back in the day, biracial kids were very unique. They wanted to put
Yeah.
us on TV and all of that stuff. And my dad was like, no, we're going to treat her normal, And so that really helped. And also, I transferred my abandonment to, as I say in the book, I transferred it to being very, very focused on being successful. And
Mm.
I was going to show, I didn't realize this till I started writing the book, but I was going to show my birth mom and dad that I was worth keeping, okay? And so I was driven. I was a good student. You did not find me not doing my homework, studying for a test. I went got my degree and my master's. So I didn't realize it till researching about abandonment that one of the things is being focused, driven. You
Mhm.
know, nobody's taking me off my game.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
and so I realized as I did this that that was a part of me, but it also made me where I didn't dwell on woe is me.
Yeah.
Okay. And the love and forgiveness. I didn't think about writing that chapter until was writing the book, and I was like, that's really where I am. I do want to explain that for me, forgiveness is not about forgetting. To me, forgiveness is about not allowing anyone, and in this case, we're talking about my birth mother and father. I'm not going to allow anyone that hurt me to take away the joy in
Yeah.
life. I'm just not going to dwell on that. They had their reasons. I don't necessarily agree with them, but I respect them because I do believe, as Maya Angelou says, when you know better, you do better.
Yeah.
And it was during the times of really, if you think of, there was racism in America, there was racism in Germany. A lot of us biracial kids were just put in an orphanage.
Mm.
In Europe, there were 650 Kinderheims that served us biracial kids.
Mm. Mm.
650.
Wow. That's something that's never spoke about.
No.
When it is never spoke about. I have family members that have served in the service and married someone overseas and
Yes.
had children, but they brought them back with them. But
Yes.
but it's unheard of. Like, seriously, just hearing your story right now was like, wow, because a lot of times you hear of the mother still keeping the children, even though the
Mhm.
soldier has left. So
Yes.
let me ask you this: for you,
Mhm.
going through your research, did you ever have a chance to meet your biological mother, father, or even siblings?
Yes,
Mhm.
I did. I did. And I'm going to just share a little bit. So you go on Amazon.com and buy it.
I know that's right.
But I will say, I did. I did a lot of research on one, back to the abandonment thing. I'm very focused. So I did research, and most, a lot of German, I do want to say, before I even answer that question, I do want to say that there were many German women who kept their kids.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
So please, I don't want to make just a blanket statement, but I do know the figures, and that's why I'm saying 5,000 in Germany, were given up in Kinderheims. Most of them were adopted throughout Europe. There were only about 500 of us out of the 5,000 in Germany that were brought to America. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, and, you know, I just, I was looking at, okay, my birth mother made that decision. My birth father made that decision. And did I meet them? I'll say I hired a counselor because I knew through my research that oftentimes when you're researching for family members, regardless whether you're adopted or not, you will get rejected
Mm.
by somebody. And so I write about my birth mother's rejection and what happened. I also write about my older sister, which I was very surprised about, Helga, who was left back in Germany. I did find her. And she did a very public humiliation of me. But thank God for mama, especially my mom, who had these strong Christian values and taught us well. And I was not going to act crazy in public, although I wanted to. I did get in my car after the event. I didn't leave early, I stayed. And I got in my car driving in Germany back to my babysitters, and I pulled off the side of the road and cried and cried and cried. But I knew through my counselor and through research that this was a normal thing that can happen to
Yeah.
us. And so I accepted it. It still is painful, but I did discover, I didn't know that I had other siblings. And so eventually there are 6 of us.
Mm.
And out of all 6, 4 of us were abandoned, including
Mm.
including Helga, who can't stand my guts for I don't know why. I left it too. So I couldn't have done anything too bad. maybe broke her tricycle, I don't know. But yes, out of the 6 of us, 2 of us, 4 of us were abandoned, and the 2 that she kept was because she was married.
Mm. She was married to someone else?
Yes, yeah. Well, later on. Later,
Okay, okay, okay,
she was
okay,
not married. And in fact, the 4 of us, she was not married to the dads.
okay. So with your biological father, you just do not know him at all? Like,
No, I do. I do. And you're gonna have to read the book.
I'm okay. I was gonna say
But he's in the United
she
he's
read it. I'm going to order the book.
and it's an audio too.
Like now I'm really nosy. Like,
He's in the United States.
he's in the
So,
United States.
so you'll have to read about him. Uh, I did travel to Germany, and so now every other year, up until COVID, I was going back to Germany. And I actually did my research and homework. In the beginning, when you meet people, they're not going to trust you, so they don't say much. I do have to share with readers. I talk about my first time in the village. I knew I was home. I stood out in the village and don't picture it like we do the streets, because it is truly a village. Okay, it is a little village. In fact, they didn't even have internet when I first got there. Okay, and my sister and I were looking at the house that we lived in, which was right across the street from my babysitter. That's who I was staying with. And all these older German men and women came running out of their home. Uta, Irmgard, Uta, coming and hugging us. And I just felt home. They
Oh,
remembered us. They remembered us. And it was just, that was magic to me. I
yeah.
am American. I'm not denying that. I'm African American. I'm white. I'm this, I'm that. But it was just so nice to have both of my cultures together. So I go
Yeah.
back now, visit my brothers. In fact, I just came back this past month. I stay about a month in Frankfurt, and I go to my babysitter's daughter, who she helped to babysit us, is still alive. So
Oh, wow. Now, are your brothers, are they biracial or they just
no, actually, my sister and I were the only 2 biracial. Uh,
okay?
the rest were um, by white men
Mhm.
in Germany, actually all in Germany.
Mm. So I was reading your profile, and you speak a lot about your community, and I just heard you talk about your village. So community seems to play a very vital role to your story. So how has being a part of the various organizations that helped you in your healing journey, what advice would you give to our listeners in finding a supportive community?
That's a good question. My sense of community comes from my father and my mother. They were lifetime members of the NAACP. Uh, uh, I grew up during the civil rights era and Martin Luther King. So my parents were very, very involved in that. Uh, and so as a little girl, my mother was president of the Women's Political Study Club and things like that. So that was a sense of community. I think I really tagged onto that, not only because of my parents, but to me, community and family are everything.
Yeah.
And being abandoned, I think, really moved me to be all odds are, and so being a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority, being a member of the 100 Black women, giving back. And I think that's why I wanted to give back by teaching. I always wanted to be a teacher at 12 years old. And because not only am I teaching kids, but they're teaching me. I am constantly learning. And so then I moved into administration, being, vice principal, a principal. I love being around young people. I love serving them. I'm chair of the scholarship committee. And it's just wonderful to see how our kids and all kids can grow and graduate and become a part of society. And I think the base of my involvement and my passion is from the abandonment piece. I'm not going to abandon my community. I'm not going to abandon any kid that needs help. I'm going to work till midnight to help someone.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Like I mentioned before, we had a whole show on abandonment last season. And I remember one of the listeners, after they finished listening to that abandonment, because myself was abandoned when I was younger. Yes, I'm still with my mom and my dad, but when you're a child, you don't understand what the roles of adults do. And even though she left me at my grandmother's house for a few years, she figured that was the best benefit for me because right at that time, her and my dad was just married and they was trying to get their own thing. But what I saw from there, that helped build my resilience, that helped build, my character and that driven. So when you said about researching, yes, sister, I'm a researcher. But also what it did to me too is, and this is something that I'm battling with, the perfection, that I have to be perfect. And so I say I'm a recovering perfectionist.
They do say that is a part of it. Yes.
Yes. But I tend to use these, I tend to flip these words that they call as negative and use them as empowerment on that. So that's a part of my shield, that abandonment. That's one of my many swords that I have that I'm able to, heal with and combat all the negativity.
Yes. But I don't see it as a negative. What I do see it as is for us to recognize.
Yeah.
We all have prejudices.
Yeah.
All of us do. But for me, it's about turning that mirror and recognizing it and saying, wait a minute, that I'm doing this because of my abandonment. I'm doing this. For me, I don't think I will ever, just totally forget about abandonment and not have some of those issues, but I don't see them as issues as long as I turn that mirror and recognize it and just work at it.
Yeah.
I'm blessed to be abandoned because
where
I ended up in America.
Right, exactly. With some beautiful parents. I'm listening to your story and you tell me about your dad and you tell me about your mom and all that. I'm like, oh my God, this was a gift.
A gift.
We talked about all this series about taking from the betrayal. What's the gift in the betrayal? What's the gift in the pain? What's the power? That turns it to a purpose.
Yes.
Right here. I'm going to order that book.
Please do. And, it's not a long book. I said, I'm not doing a book more than 150 pages, 147 pages. And, I'm not, I, I do think it's a true story that everyone can relate to in one way or the other. And I'm with you. I have the same philosophy you do about things happen to us for a reason. And for me, if I didn't get that job or then I turn the mirror. It's not about the other person. It's about me and how will I handle it differently next time?
Yeah.
And that's what I teach to students when they get in a fight or cuss the teacher out or whatever. They come to my office because as principal, I like dealing with some of those, And I'll say, well, honey, how can you handle it different next time? Let's talk about the tools.
Yeah.
I'm happy. I go to Germany and I want everybody to know I am 4 hours ahead of my flight at the airport. I do not want to be left behind. Okay. So let's not get it twisted. I love Germany. It is my home, too. But America is my number one home with my mama and daddy here. Okay.
That's beautiful. That is so beautiful. It's beautiful that you can go back home.
Yes.
And just even you talk about your village coming in and just embracing you fully and whole. And it's just like a whole circle around about right there. And it's kind of like complete you entirely.
That's the key. And as I say, I'm at peace. And I truly am at peace knowing who I am because self-identity is very important.
Yeah.
And and being biracial, I do have to say, has unique challenges. In fact, I'm writing my second book and interviewing people, but we live in the middle because we're not black enough to be black and not white enough to be white. So we do the code switching and we're able, and I'm proud of my code switching. I can get in any door, but identifying racially, knowing who you are and how the world perceives you and what you want to accomplish. And I just keep that motto of mine, and that is I'm not going to allow anyone to take the joy from my life.
Beautiful, beautiful. You speaking on biracial, I remember a few years ago back on my old radio show, I remember having this young lady. She was an actress and she was biracial. And I remember us having this deep conversation. And at that time, I did not understand how hard it was for biracial children. I did not understand it. Because I'm a darker hue. I'm dark skinned. Back then, I grew up in the 70s and 80s. So, that was, dark girl, you chocolate, you dark, so when you look at the light-skinned girl, that light-skinned girl with the pretty hair, you think that they have it all together. But she has shared with us is that no, like she felt that she couldn't understand what her identity was because she felt like she wasn't white enough for the white side. She wasn't black enough for the black side.
Right.
So, and she was adopted by two white parents. And and they couldn't help her with nothing. And like you and your sister, her and her sister was adopted together, and her sister hair was straight and she had the curly kinky hair, and she said, oh my God, Nyomi, when I was going to class I was looking awful because they didn't know what to do with me. But her sharing that story with us, I was like, wow. I was like, oh my God, like we really don't understand. And let me say this, because let's talk about Vice President right now, Vice President Kamala Harris right now.
Yes.
And you hear a lot of the whispers and what she said she was Indian and she said she was black. And she's all of that.
Yes.
She has to honor all that who she is. How can you not say you're not this and this is a very woman that birthed you? How can I say I'm not Indian?
Yeah.
How can I say I'm not black or Jamaican or whatever? Exactly. How can I say that I'm not that?
Exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It is tough. And I think, in fact, I'm preparing right now. I'm going to be the opening speaker for the California Foster Parents Conference here in California. And my topic is actually on self-identity and diversity, because nowadays there are a lot of foster parents who are fostering biracial children, not just black, white kids, but, different races. And, I talk about that regardless of what the parent is, if you have a biracial child, you've got to, really introduce them to their culture, but the parent has to also participate in that, and that's one of the things my parents did. They didn't just drop us off at a white event and left us, I grew up in Bakersville, okay, one of the centers of the KKK. In fact, I talk about it in my book that we had a cross burned on our front yard. So my parents, really surrounded us, taught us, protected us, and then also talked about the event if we ran into some racial issues. And we ran into racial issues, not just with white people. I got bullied and all of that by black kids who didn't like my hair,
Oh, they liked your hair. Oh, they really liked your hair.
Well, you know what I mean.
I know what you mean.
And because I had a group of girls follow me around one time, and they deliberately were talking about, oh, that's not her real hair. No, do you see this and that? And I'm like, who cares whether it's my real hair or not? So, those experiences you have to prepare your kids for,
Yeah.
And I talk about it in my book, so please get it.
Yeah. I'm going to get it. I'm going to order it. Because not only is it a good book, but I'm nosy because I want to see if excuse my language, if the sperm donor, if you met the sperm donor, that's all.
Well, it's not I do have to say, everybody's read it, so it is not a boring book. And every time something happened to me, I'd call my really good girlfriends up and they'd say, oh my God, you got to. So I had my iPad when I go to Germany, and at night I really, I kept a diary because people would share with me. And in the beginning they didn't. But as I continued to go back to Germany and go back, they opened up more, and then they were very honest about what they really thought about my birth mother in the village, and and things that had happened, and I double checked them, because I didn't want to write anything negative that just one or two people said. So and being 2 years old, I had emotions. I don't remember anything. My sister, 5 years old, does. I don't, but I do subconsciously. Like when it rains, I get really depressed, and I discovered that when the car picked us up, it was raining. And so I have a difficult time with rain, but at least now that I found that out, I'm able to deal with it more. I used to really get depressed, but now I say, oh, this is about, and then I just go off and do something happy. So, regardless of what age you are when you're abandoned, there are some things that happen to you that be subconscious.
Yeah, they had trigger moments, and now you have the tools to be able to manage those trigger moments.
Absolutely.
That's something we talk about here a lot, because when we say that we're going through the healing process, we're healing always.
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 Always. Till the day we die.
Yeah. And so now that we have the tools, and that's what the Season and Self-Love is. This is why this podcast, I created it. So now the tools that you don't have, that we can learn the tools from different voices, from different languages. Absolutely. And when I mean language, like your voice, it's a whole different language for my listeners. So as long as we continue to be open to be bilingual of the voices that we hear, we'll have so many tools that'll be able to help us through life, that when we do have those triggering moments and we hear that rain or that smell, then we go, well, hold on, I can go back to here.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, Miss Judy, you gotta wrap this up, baby.
Well, I'm good. I'm a pleasure talking to you and allowing me to share my story.
Thank you. But before you go, could you just give some practical advice or steps for our listeners, just that they can take to explore their own journey of identity in healing?
Yes. The advice I have is to not blame and shame. It's about understanding the other person, not necessarily agreeing, but not understanding the person, understanding the time, and turning that mirror and saying, how can I handle this and be a better person? And I just want to leave everyone with the thought that don't allow anyone that has brought you pain to take away the joy in your life. Life is much too short. Don't allow them to do that.
Beautiful, beautiful. Tell us where they can find the book. Your website. Give it all. Give it all. Give it all.
Well, if you Google Judy Fanbrough Billingsley or even Judy Billingsley, I pop up. I do have a Facebook page. I also have an author Facebook page. If you Google Too Brown to Keep, I am available. I self-published my book, and so it's available on Amazon, not only through soft copy, but also through audio. I hired an excellent reader who knows how to say those German names and everything. Sounds really good. And so please buy my book, go there. It's worth your time, believe me. And I also give some hints on if you're just searching for your legacy and ancestry. There's some websites and things that I included in the book. And so thank you, everyone, for listening. And thank you for allowing me to be here and share.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Judy. Thank you. This was good because now I know that you got it on Audible.
Yes, I do. For you young whippersnappers, okay? Yeah.
As soon as we finish with this, I'm going to download it.
Yes, and it's in the process of being translated in German.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm gonna miss that one, but the other one I got you on that one. But again, Judy, thank you so much for just joining us today and just sharing your incredible journey. And also, it's been enlightening and profoundly just, God, it's been a good one. This was a good one. This was really good.
Good.
And to my listeners, I want you to remember to continue to embrace your vulnerabilities. And it's a very part of your healing process. So again, join us on our next episode as we continue with the Healing Beyond Betrayal series here on the Season of Self-Love. So until then, keep loving yourself and discovering new things. Have a good one.
Absolutely.
Thank you for joining us on this journey of discovering and empowerment here at the Season of Self-Love podcast. Remember, embracing self-love is a continuous journey, and we're so glad to have you with us. So if you enjoyed today's episode, please leave us a review. And don't forget to join our community on Facebook at Season of Self-Love. Connect with like-minded individuals who are also on their self-love journey. Now, if you have any questions or topics that you'd like for us to explore, we'd love to hear from you. Email us at seasonofselflove@gmail.com and let your voice be heard. So until next time, take a moment for yourself today and remember, you are worthy of love, joy, and all the beautiful things that life has to offer. Have a good one.